The Prime Minister of India is a very powerful man. There should be more critical questions to him directly.
There are those who say that what you did was more of activism rather than asking questions, and all of this was just to get 15 seconds of fame online.
I don't need any 15 minutes of fame. I didn't make myself the story, the Indian media that started writing about me. In Norway, when you call in the press, we are not there to just listen to talking points. We're usually able to ask questions. Some parts of the population in India just view journalism differently because journalism is supposed to be challenging powers and it's supposed to be critical. And sometimes when you don't get the answers, it gets confrontational.
Prime Minister Modi, why don't you take some questions from the freest press in the world?
That was Helly Lyng, a journalist from Norway who questioned India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit to Oslo last week. Her video of that moment and an intense exchange later with India's Ministry of External Affairs has taken the internet by storm.
I'm wondering, as we strengthen our partnership, why should we trust you? Can you promise that you will try to stop the human rights violations that goes on in your country? And also, will the Prime Minister start taking critical questions from the Indian press at some point in the future? And also, if possible, I would like you to answer straight away.
Okay.
Right now. Like now.
Let me answer the question. Please don't interrupt me. Please don't interrupt me. You ask me a question, please. This is my press conference. You ask, why should a country trust India?
Following this controversy, Lyng has been subjected to brutal and vile trolling on social media. She has been slammed for heckling Prime Minister Modi and being called all sorts of names online. Earlier today, we spoke to Helly Lyng on what exactly happened at the press briefing, her confrontational style, Western media's views on India, and press freedom. She maintains that what she did was not orchestrated, planned, or activism. It was just a reporter doing her job. Do watch this interview till the very end. Hello and welcome. I am Shubham Chohan. Let's get started. Helle Lyng, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with me here on HW News. You've become an overnight star here in India, especially after what happened in Norway when you posed that question to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and that has led to this huge social media storm and debate, and whether what you did was right, wrong, otherwise. I'll come to each and every aspect of this, but I want to start with who Helly Lyng is. And I'm asking that, the reason I'm asking that is because a lot of people after the controversy have been digging in on social media, trying to sort of float information about you and make some rather bizarre links. So can you start by telling us what do you do, which publication you work for?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I think those articles are so funny because I'm 28. I'm still figuring out who I am. But I started working as a summer intern in 2021 in a publication called Nettavisen. And then I worked there for almost 5 years. And I quit I had my last workday there in February this year, and then I had my new job as a commentator in Dagsavisen, which I just started this month. On my spare time, I go to the gym. Sometimes I do some yoga, and I also just hang out with my friends and eat dinners with them and have a few glasses of wine. And I love traveling, and I've been very lucky to have had the opportunity to cover or do overseas coverage as well, but sadly never in India.
So you're not a George Soros agent, as many on the internet are calling you. You've been called a propagandist, a Western propagandist, and a George Soros agent. So you're not any of that, right?
My friends are laughing a lot about this. And my mom and my dad is a little more scared because they think I'm really in it, and that they're worried that have she pissed off the wrong people, and could something happen? Especially my mom was a little worried about that. But I think we laugh about those accusations that I, a small town reporter from Norway, is a Chinese spy. All I did was just ask one question. And of course, following up on with the MEAs that evening, but like, no, not a spy. I will deny that. And I'm also not funded by George Soros. And it's kind of wild to see some of the accusations online. And mostly it's wild to see it from media organizations.
Right.
Because it's undocumented. Yeah. They don't have any documentation. Bring me the documentation.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the press briefing. And I want to take it one step at a time with our audience so that they're able to follow as to what really happened. Because, like I said, once you posted that video, everything just blew up. Let's start with the press briefing. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Norwegian Prime Minister held a joint press meet where each of them delivered a statement, as is the norm when two heads of state meet. I want you to start by telling us what exactly happened at that press briefing where you had both Indian and Norwegian reporters as well.
So there were a few rows, like back to back, and I was sitting on second row, very close to the prime ministers. And they came out and talked about the cooperation ship they want to do and how it will advance the economies. They were very keen to talk about the green transition, also the geopolitical situation, the safety. India's placement in the world is, of course, very of interest, I think, because you're so close to China. And so for a small country such as Norway and the other Nordic countries, we're of course close to Russia. But I do think that you kind of see that now you have to have more ties in other regions as well because of the geopolitical instability. So I think there's a very a great potential for cooperation. But
if I can just ask this, was there at any point did officials from either side at any point tell reporters that this is this press briefing, as it were, will not have any questions? Was there any sort of communication that was made prior?
Yeah, and I've been honest about that too, that when I signed up for that the week before, it said that there would be no questions in together, there would be no open questions for the prime ministers for all reporters. So what happens then is that when the two prime ministers had shaken hands and Modi was going to be escorted to the elevator, which was very close by too. It's literally under 20-second walk, and the prime minister, my prime minister, was going to escort him to come back and do interviews. That's what he was going to do. And then that's when I just asked a question on the way out. The question, I think everyone knows the question now. If you're watching this.
I think that's what many believe, that if officials who organize the press briefing, if they had informed reporters in prior that there will be no questions, the fact that you went ahead and asked, many believe that you heckled India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he was meeting the Norwegian Prime Minister. How would you respond to that?
Well, I tried to ask him two questions. One that everyone saw, and the other one was on the way to the elevator, but the elevator closed, so he didn't. We had eye contact, but I don't think he had the opportunity to hear my entire question because the elevator closed. So there's a little bit of a difference here in Norway. In Norway, when you call in the press, we are not there to just listen to talking points. We're usually able to ask questions. And I reject the premise that any foreign leader can come to Norway and hold a press brief or a press conference. It's funny that you mention it. The Prime Minister of Norway called it a press conference in his official statement. So they published a press release afterwards, and even them called it a press conference. I don't really care if it was called a press brief or a press conference. I would have tried to ask the question anyway, because the Prime Minister of India is a very powerful man, and there's a lot going on in India that there should be more critical questions to him directly. So that's just my opinion. in my position as a journalist.
Right. After, of course, the incident that you mentioned and your post went viral, the Indian embassy in Norway tagged you in a post saying that, you want to ask questions, we are organizing a press briefing, please come. You went and you posed a question to Secretary West in the Ministry of External Affairs, Mr. Sibi George. You posed him questions, and in his answer, he gave a rather lengthy reply, talking about all sorts of things about India being 5,000-year-old civilization, about Gandhi, about free elections, about women. What did you make of Secretary George's response to your questions?
Well, the whole premise of that press conference was also a little bit unusual, because instead of having a question and then you answer the question, they collected all the questions in advance. So, and then they wrote it down, and then they were going to answer it all together. But so when they finally took my question, I was going to say my questions, I also asked them. So I would also ask if we could just go right away, because then I can ask follow-up questions, and that wasn't an opportunity. So then when they started answering my questions, some time in, I haven't the exact minute, I also tried to interrupt and try to redirect them back to the topics of human rights and press freedom, especially. For me, that was my main aim at this state visit to Norway. And they didn't want to tap into those issues. And I can't force them to, of course, but I tried my best.
So you believe Secretary George was trying to dodge your questions and not wanting to take up the issues that you were raising? Is that what you think?
So I think he did it in a way that was... because he did answer half of my question. So I asked him about trust, but in light of human rights and press freedom. And he decided to just answer, why should the world trust India? Which is, I acknowledge that India has done a lot of good for the world too. And he was also, two other things that came to mind that I thought was both interesting and a little bit... like I'm not used to it, that he started talking about yoga, which is also why when I did the interview with the NDTV the other day, I also wanted to just have a little bit more of a light note, since it was such an intense interview. And that's why I said it. Well, I make no mistake, like I love yoga, I love Indian food, but I was there, to ask a critical question. But they just decided to make me look stupid, and they can do that if they want to.
There's also a clip of you walking out of that press briefing midway when Secretary George is answering, because apparently you walked out because you didn't think the answer was satisfactory. Is that true?
Oh, no, that's not true. But I don't disagree with that. That the answer wasn't satisfying. That's true. But I walked out to get water, and I came back under, I don't think it was more than 30 seconds, because I just had to do the thing. And then the security team let me back in. And that's what I did. I got water. And what I do question the reporters there that has filmed this and then just taken it out of context. If you want to, I can get both my colleague that was there and also a colleague. I can ask a colleague from another Norwegian newspaper to verify that I came back if that's necessary, because I was not out for long. Would I have done it again? No, because I've never experienced this type of framing before. So I didn't know it would be framed this way. So I walk out quickly and get water, and then I walk back in again quickly and sit down again. And but again, I wasn't satisfied with the answer. So I don't know how much it it didn't give me a whole lot. And it had already been so many minutes of... and this was also after I tried to get them to redirect. And also, since they were taking questions from everyone at the same time, I was like, okay, maybe they just jumped over to another question now.
Helly Lyng, there are those who believe that while a reporter is well within their right to ask a question, that's pretty much your job. But many object to the way in which you asked your questions. There are those who say that what you did was more of activism rather than asking questions, and all of this was just to get 15 seconds of fame online. How would you react to these comments?
I think it's nice to discuss journalism, and I stand by the way my questions were framed. I don't need any like 15 minutes of fame. I didn't seek for it. I was trying to ask about press freedom. And for me, I would have loved the conversation to be about press freedom. And that's a discussion that I would have been wanting to participate in. But I didn't make myself the story. The Indian media that started writing about me, the Indian commentators, online commentators that started harassing me, people calling me, Facebook blocking me, or suspending me is the correct English word. Those types of, that's what made this about me. I'm very comfortable and happy if we can go back to talking about the real issues of India. And that's also what I pinned a post online that has said that I think we should now start directing the attentions towards reporters in India doing the heavy lifting. And I think for me, that's what I want to do now. That let's start looking at the stories now and get those get them elevated. They are the ones that deserve the attention. And I hope that's what happens forwards, but I can't control it,
Right. Let's talk about press freedom. Of course, Norway is ranked number 1. India is way below 157th. What do you think this entire controversy, what kind of message you think this controversy has sent across the world, given its virality and the nature in which it unfolded?
I think the world has a much bigger perspective. Not everyone, but those that have followed this discussion, I think they have a broader perspective of how polarized India is. And also and how some people, for example, they're praising me for this. They're like, thank you so much. And I get that. I get a message every minute. I get actually a few messages every minute of people thanking me. I get a bunch of stories from people of India that I'm reading and also seeing if there's something I could do to get those stories further elevated. That's the one side of it. And then it's the other side of it that hates me. This morning, I woke up to a message on X. I'm going to just find it. He tried to call me twice at 4:46 a.m. Norwegian time. And then he wrote, "You filthy pig, I will kill your family." So that's the other side of it. You filthy pig, I will kill your family. So I think that's something the world is opening their eyes to, that maybe there's a lot more going on in India than we're aware of and that we've been covering well. And I think it's very good criticism to say that in India or that the Western world hasn't covered India enough. But I think we will maybe start to do more now.
Exactly. My next question was about the Western media. One of the biggest criticism of the Western media, of the foreign press, is the fact that they're ignorant about India. They don't see India beyond a certain set of stereotypes. In fact, while this controversy involving you was going on, a Norwegian paper put out a cartoon showing Prime Minister Modi as a snake charmer, and it had a headline, "A sneaky and a slightly annoying man." Would you agree that the Western press does look at India from a certain lens, and that lens may not always be the right one?
I agree that, or at least I feel that there's a need for Western media to understand the Indian population more. And I think we need to learn more, we need to cover it more, we need to follow it more. I completely get that criticism, and that's something I honestly learned so much this week, and I'm excited to learn more. And about the controversy, since I've been doing interviews back to back and also trying to do my job, I haven't been able to really actually read about that whole incident. I've seen it. The only thing I did was listen to a podcast that this newspaper posted about, I listened to a few minutes of them explaining the controversy. And I know this publication, it's a really well-established one when it comes to just in general foreign politics. So I think they did not intend for this to be viewed as racist or insensitive. And then I think they need to take criticism of that is coming from India, and it's also not just coming from Modi's India and the people that follow him. It's also coming from other people that are anti-Modi, you know? So I think that's a very important criticism that they have to discuss and then, learn from.
Right. My penultimate question to you, I know you've been doing a lot of interviews lately. Now, you spoke about the wild trolling and abuse that you were subjected to after this controversy. You were called all sorts of names. Your pictures from your trips were posted and people started making all sorts of hateful comments about you. How difficult and how overwhelming has it been to sort of cope with all of this that's been going on social media?
I think it's been an interesting internet, like, I don't even know how to describe it, you know, because suddenly your phone's blowing up. Suddenly people are calling you in the middle of the night. Suddenly people are making deep fakes of me in a bikini. And those deep fakes that I have seen, I deleted the first one I saw, and I have not seen that many afterwards. But I will just tell everyone I don't look like that. And I just find it funny. I think the memes and the political satire is all funny, and even those that portray me in a very bad light, I think it's funny. It's okay to have a good discussion, political satire. I love it. It's fun. The death threats, the deep fakes, and the wrongful accusations that are undocumented, such as the spy theories and the Chinese plant theory, that I really disapprove of, because I just think it's creating such a vicious internet environment, and it's malicious. I also don't approve of channels that try to frame me and cut me in the worst possible way without the context, but I can't really do anything about that. So I just try to think that I hope I started a conversation. That's all I think. If I started a conversation about this, and maybe in the future also can help lift some of the journalists of India doing the very important work, that's more than enough for me, and I'm okay with the kind of checking out after that. I have to, next week, I'm back to writing about a strike going on here in Norway. We're also covering, there's some budgets in Norway that are now being, and there's a lot of, we are angry here too about the gasoline crisis of the world. So I'm going to hop back to my audience that I write for next week, but it's been interesting.
Absolutely. And my final question to you now, you spoke about wanting to highlight work from India and journalists as well. There's a section that is saying that Helly Lyng has now become this viral celebrity online, and from a journalist with negligible following in Norway on social media, here she is. After this fame, she'll perpetually target India by highlighting work that is critical of the government. And many even say that, you know, this face-off or this confrontation that you had with the MEA and Prime Minister Modi has turned you into an activist. Now, do you agree with this assessment?
No, I'm a journalist, and I think it's something, and I'm a commentator now, so I get to do a little bit of my own takes in my newspaper. But I think it's you view journalism differently. Some parts of the population in India just view journalism differently, because journalism is supposed to be challenging powers, and it's supposed to be critical. And sometimes when you don't get the answers, it gets confrontational. So, but I'm looking forward to following the cooperation between India and the Nordic countries. And I will also do reporting, hopefully in the future, about what we accomplished together. So it's not a black and white scenario for me, but I don't waste my questions on talking about or asking about talking points that they already elaborated, you know?
Right. On that note, Helly Lyng, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with me. And as a fellow journalist, of course, solidarity with you for all the hate that's been coming your way. And it's important that reporters do ask questions to those in power without fear or favor. Thank you so much for joining us on
Thank you
HW.
yourself.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Best of luck.